Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be working on the assignment here in Unit 7. The main focus is to work with various different data types. We'll be using the My Guitar Shop database once again to do the work. We have the prompts here attached, and this time around, you guys will notice I didn't put a Word document in here, and I think at this point you're probably capable to just take the what you're doing and the screen output, label it and put it into a Word document without having the document created for you. And I've been kind of experimenting with both approaches, and I'm trying to find the best way. So I'm just saying that out front here. Once we make every query work, of course, we will do some things here. And there's a lecture point I'm going to kind of throw into the middle here, which is a function that we haven't talked about yet, right? And not to confuse the waters here, but there is a function at W3 Schools, and I guess I closed my Brave browser a little too soon, and we're going to go to the MySQL area, and we're going to go look at a function named cast. And I don't know if they're listed here. In fact, here's the best way to find it. I'm just going to search it on the page. All right, so it's considered an advanced function, I guess. All right. The point of this function, and this will be helpful, by the way, in completing that first step. It takes the value that you have and converts it into the data type that you need in your database. Now, and I want to explain why we even do this. The primary reason we do this is most of the data that we will put into a database will usually come from an application that basically insulates a normal end user from the actual database. So for example, a normal end user, isn't going to log into your database with a user account and write a query to insert their information, right? That's not how it works, right? The way that the data gets there is we create an application and pick a language, or we create a website or an app on your phone, and the user interacts with that app. And when they're done and they hit that send or submit button, that information gets transported to the database. And sometimes the programming code that created it will include the SQL code to inject it in the database. But the data captured from the form on the website or in the application, and this is very important, it always is captured as text. Great, right? Because text is pretty flexible. I can have, as we mentioned before, letters, numbers, dates, emojis, all of that stuff. Heck, JSON code, right? That's all text. But when we're capturing it like on the screen and then we're sending it to the application, we have to convert it to the right format so it can actually go in to the database. That process is called casting. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to basically, and I'll do the little try it because it's pretty simple, but what this one does is it takes this snippet, which is text. This is text. It's in the correct format for a date, but it is not a date data point, but my application. So if I was writing a web application or mobile app or a regular, Windows or Mac app, and I had a form and somebody typed in a date, or I maybe even had drop down boxes that would assemble this string for me. And then I send it to my database for processing. Well, I want to cast that as a date so that it actually works in the database. Otherwise, the database won't take it, right? And so now it's in the database, and the database has converted it to the correct format. It still looks like characters. Yeah, I know, but that's different as a data type than text. This is text. This is now a date, a different data type. All right, so now let's go back and look at the instructions and see how we could apply this to what we're actually trying to do. All right, write a select statement that returns these columns from the products table. right? So we're going to use a column that uses the cast function to return the date added column, right? The the okay, so and I want you to notice it's the last part of each one of these sentences that's pertinent, right? The date added column with full date and time. So if somebody typed in, for example, I don't know, January 1st, 2025, it would add a time to it. So it would have hour, minute, seconds. If they typed it in, we would only return it as a date. Return only the year and month from the date column, only the time from the date added column. So all of those, right? And why would we do this? Because whatever functional need we need in the database, we might need the information for other processing, for example, or to meet some other thing. Now, we're going to do this in a very simple fashion. So this actually goes reasonably quick. But I think it's important to jump over to MySQL Workbench, and we're working off of the products table here. So I'm gonna take a look at the products table, and you'll notice we have product ID, category, product code, product name, description, list price, discount percent, and date added, right? And we're particularly looking at this field. This is the one that we're gonna look at, and let's actually take a look and run like this generic query here just to look at the information. And you'll notice right now, date added is in the format of date time, right? So this is, and it says so right here, right? But I'm verifying it. So it's a year, month, day, hour, minute, second, both, right? And that's a type of data in the database. So if I'm going to create a new query here, so I'm going to create a new SQL file. Right off the bat, I'm going to do a save on it so I don't forget to do that later. Yep, right semester. And we'll call this Unit 7 data types. And I'm going to save it. And right off the bat, we know that we're using the My Guitar Shop database. So let's just say use My Guitar Shop. All right, let's execute that one to make sure we're connected and we're good. All right, now let's write that first query. Now, what we're selecting is actually pretty simple. We're just selecting the date added. All right, so date added. And that's an underscore. I was just double checking that because I wasn't remembering. All right, so that's what we're selecting. And generally what we're really doing is we're just doing this. Select date added from products. I mean, that's the grand query. But we're doing some casting. So really, when we're doing the select, we're going to take that date added and convert it a bunch of times and make new data columns out of it. So this is going to be kind of like a multifaceted query here. So we're selecting really the result of a cast statement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast parentheses, open and close, and then what are we casting? Okay, so we're going to take the date added, and this comes from our instructions, by the way, and we're going to take it as date time, the format that it's already in, and then we're going to redisplay it as date time. And I know initially you're going to go, why are we doing this? Isn't that the same thing as just selecting it? Basically. Right, but we're going to have we're going to do the cast on it just so you can see what the effect is. That's the point of this, right? The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to cast the date added as just a straight up date, and then we're going to alias it. Basically, we're going to name the column, right? We're going to say added date, I guess. I don't know, just flip the words. All right. For right now, this is all I'm going to run. I know there's more commands to complete, but I just want to show you what happens. So I'm going to hit the selective run here. And here's what you have. So like, here's the original. I'm casting it here. It casts back to the same thing. Okay. So really no effect, correct? No effect, right? Taking it in the format it's in, trying to cast it to the format it's in, whatever, not changing anything. But here, where I change it from date time to date, Notice that by doing the casting, it truncates or removes the hours, minutes, seconds. So that might have some value for us. It's like, okay, I don't care what time it happened. I just want to know what day it happened. Right. All right. Let's carry forward. The next one would be to cast the date added as a character. Well, how many characters do we need to display that? Interesting. All right. If I look at a date added, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Let's look at the instructions here. Were we asked to do a character? No, that's kind of this is my superfluous addition here. But I'm just going to show you here. I'm going to choose 7 as a number, which doesn't make sense compared to what I just counted. But I just want to show you that it's possible to go from that form. It doesn't have to change to another time format. It can actually change to a different format altogether. Once again, I'm going to run it. Take a look at that. Oh, so if I say character 7, now what do I have? You see why? Now you'll understand why I'm leading you down this path, because it has relevance for some of the later questions. So what it's doing is now it's just taking the first 7 characters, 2017-10. That's 7 characters. Doesn't care if it's numbers or whatever. So if I just want to show you your month, there you go. All right. What if we just want the time? So we'll take, once again, date added. We're going to cast it as time, and then we'll label it as added time. Run that. And now I've separated, right? I'm saying the year and the month and the time, but not the day. Still in 24-hour format, right? You can change that too, by the way. All right. Last one here. We'll cast date. Come on, auto type. Now it doesn't want to work. Date added as year. And then we'll call that year added in the output. And of course, that's going to give us just the year. So my point on this is, if you have a data point, so like let's imagine a point of sale system that's automatically time stamping everything, right? Or storing it as a date time in this case. I can go in there and do the cast and extract other pieces of information from a more complex data type. So this is really useful for doing really weird stuff like that. And you can think of a lot of different scenarios. Hey, I just want the orders from 2025. Right. I don't care. Hours, minutes, days, month, irrelevant. Right. So, that's the kind of thing that we have as a capability here. Now I am getting an underline. So I got like, and I don't know if that's valid or not, but I'm not. Oh, here we go. Oh, year is not valid as in this position. Right. All right. So why is it not valid? I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's giving me that output down here in the console. I do not see it outputting to the console. I assume you guys are getting the same thing. Now, if we look up that data types, if you run into a weird situation like this and you're looking up the data types, okay, so here's the why. I think it's related to this. That's probably the why. I don't know why that would be an issue here. The code clearly ran though, and I'm just looking at my old code. Did I like miss some syntax? No, it's correct. It worked. It did give us the output we wanted. So Be hard pressed to change it, frankly. All right, let's move on to the next one. And we need to look at the homework description here. It says create a query displaying the list price of the products, show the list price as its data type of decimal and also as a formatted string. Okay. All right, let's do that. This one's kind of an interesting little query too. And I would suspect if I left you to your own devices that you might not find this one. All right, so what we're going to select is list price. This is going to come, and I'm just going to do the from right away so I don't forget. So from products, and what you're seeing me do right now is something I kind of do both by habit and intuitively because I want to remember, okay, what table am I looking at? And I know there's more stuff to add up here, but I'm going to select the list price from the products table. And now I want to basically take that list price, show the list price as its data type of decimal and also as a formatted string. So this first part is going to show the way it is in the database. What they're asking me to do is pull that price, the second part of it, and display it as money. Right. So here's kind of a thought. Maybe I look at the products here and go, okay, well, these are all 2-digit. And then when I look at products, the list price is a decimal of 10 and 2, right? 10 on the left, 2 on the right of the decimal point. And okay, yeah, that's what it is for sure. Okay. But they want us to display it in a way that might be more user friendly to look at. So back over to MySQL workbench here, back to our query. And what I'm going to do is we'll display the list price. Then we're going to take, when I look at a price on a screen, usually I like to see the dollar sign in front of it. That's the normal way to do it. Or if I was in the European Union, the euro sign in front of it, or the British sterling, mark or whatever, right? So we're naive that the dollar is everywhere. It kind of is, but isn't at the same time. So I want to put that in front of whatever the price is. To do that, that's a piece of text. I want to add that in front of the list price. And if you guys remember, we have the concat command, which is concatenate, which joins strings to strings, right? And joins them together. So I can concatenate the dollar sign and join it with the list price. Now, it is notable here, and this is, I think, something to think about, that in the process of taking a number, regardless of its number format, and joining it to a string, there's an implied cast happening here. This is getting cast to text to be able to join it to the dollar sign to put it on the screen. So it changes from being a number, and then we'll give a name for the column, and you can call it, I don't know, string value is what I called it last time. It makes no sense. Or you can just call it with dollar sign, something like that. And that's the solution for this one. It's a pretty simple solution, right? But the point is I can take the data from the database, and then when I put it back up on the screen and I run this query, I can get it to appear in a format that's a little more comfortable for people who are actually dealing with money. So I'm adding the dollar sign to the front of it. There's a whole bunch of this kind of stuff that you can do. How useful this might be in this context. I don't know that I would actually write this into a database, I'll be real frank. I would be more apt, like if I'm writing an application to put the dollar on the screen, I would just put the dollar sign in the application and then grab the value from the database and put that on the screen, right? But it is feasible to do it within the database too. All right. All right, let's look at the next directive here. It says, all right, for this exercise, you will complete the following steps, adding a varchar data type named note to a table. Okay, please show the results after each step. Okay, whatever. And then for more information, take a look at this. So let's go take a look at this, right? So like if I'm providing you a link, there's a reason. And notice that we're looking at the varchar data type. And what we're trying to do is basically add that to a table. And I'm trying to find the example here. Okay, maybe this isn't the right link, and I apologize. But basically, if we're going to create a, for example, a data type like this and add it to a table. So, like, for example, if my products table has all this great information in it, but wouldn't it be kind of nice if I, like, okay, there's a description of the instrument. That's really cool. But wouldn't it be cool if I had like a little notes column here? Like I could add that. Now we've learned about this command called alter, right? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to issue that command. I'm going to say alter table. And so I'm going to take a table that's already there. I'm going to change it. Which table am I changing? Products, right? And I'm going to add a column called notes and its data type. And I'm just going to do, I don't know. I'm not sure how much stuff I would type in here. Like, I don't know. This guitar is really cool. It comes with a hard shell case. I don't know. Some notes, right? And that sounds like text. So my go-to, of course, is varchar. And then I have to declare size. I'm not sure what's a good size. It sounds like I might type more than a few words there. So let's go with 200. And so we're adding a column that's capable of holding 200 characters as a varchar. Right. So let's go ahead and run this one. And I'm noticing I have, okay, why? Because there's no semicolon here. All right, that's the Y on that error message. All right, let's go ahead and run this one. Here's a selective run. Oh, okay, I see what I did here. No wonder it was yelling at me. I typed my query in the middle of a query. All right, so I cut it and I'm moving it down. All right, and then this semicolon goes away. All right, there we are. Much better. And I'm wondering if that's the same error message. Maybe a comma. Nope. I'll figure that one out later. But let's press forward here. Let's run this one. Here's the run. And it says alter table products error duplicate. Oh, I already did it. Okay, so it worked. Even though I failed before, it actually worked. So if I run this query again to look at the products table, I now have a notes column. And notice all of those are null. Right? Why? Because I didn't put any data in there yet. Okay, so that satisfies that instruction. Right? All right. The next one, oops, sorry about that, says they want us to complete the following steps, adding a Boolean data type named active, showing the results after each step. Okay, so that's kind of redundant. So I apologize for the poor wording on this. So, all right, I'm going to backtrack a second here. I'm going to actually think about this because if I'm going to do this step, which I just did, wouldn't it be a good idea to maybe create a new record? And maybe I should add that to the assignment description. And you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to alter this on the fly. This is very weird to do during a live class session, but you know what? That's how I roll sometimes. And I'm going to say insert some data, or I'll say this. How about create at least one new record that includes data for the new column. All right, so And I'm going to take that same instruction and add it here, except not that way. This is very silly to see this. So I don't think we're going to get to number 4 today, folks. Sorry. Um, but we are going to finish up number 3. And just to speed things up here a little bit, I'm going to just copy paste my entire query in because we are just about out of time. So here's the query I put together. So into products, I'm inserting the following information. I listed all the columns, including the notes column. And then I have a product ID, a category ID, yada, 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 yada. And then here at the end, this is my notes column. And see, test, 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 test. Right. Okay. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm running it. Here's the run. Looks like it worked. Let's go back and take a look at the products table again. Let's just refresh that. And then if I look at that last product way down there, you can see my notes column with data. And that's I added a record and I added some notes. All right. We're going to have to cap it here. And actually, you know what? I think I think I can actually do this in a minute or two. So I'm just going to plow ahead, and then nobody has to come back for another video. Also makes me not needing to post another video. All right. So the last directive was to add a Boolean value to the customers table, and it's basically a Boolean value that we're going to add. That's going to be a true false. That's basically, remember, 0 is false and any other value is true. Here, that's just going to ask the question, is this an active customer? And generally, I use 1 for true and 0 for false on this. So that would be helpful if you're running a report. I just want to see active customers. Okay, there you go. You'll have your column. So back to the query here. I'm going to write a very simple query that's going to alter the table customers and add a column called active that's of the data type Boolean. Remember, there's an alternate. You can just say bool. That works too. But we'll just do Boolean. Let's run it. That succeeded. Let's take a look to make sure it worked. So we're just going to run that customer query again. And there it is. It's empty right now. Null value is not true, right? It's not 0 either. It's just empty. Okay. Back to the main query page here. So I'm going to choose one of the customers. This is what I'm going to do. And I'll just pick the first one, right? So I'm going to take this customer and set them to active. So I'm going to do that with a very simple query. And so I'm going to write this. I'm going to say alter, oops, sorry, not that. It's going to say this. This is what you get for copy pasting, I guess. Update the customers table and set active to 1, which stands true, where the customer ID equals 1. So I'm manually making that customer active. And just to make sure, let's run that query again. And there he is, set to active. So that's active. And if you want, and I'm just gonna do it for the sake of doing it. I'm gonna take another customer 2, and set them to not active. So I'm going to run that one too. And then once again, go back, rerun the query. So I have 1 active, 1 inactive, right? False, true. 0 is false, 1 is true. The rest are neither. Okay. Then we're going to do a kind of a fancy little thing here. And I know we're over time, so I apologize if you have to be somewhere. You can always come back and watch the video if you need to go. And I think this has to be an alteration. Okay, so we didn't add a new record that has that data, but I think what I'm going to add to this one is run a query and I might reword that, so just hang tight here. But basically, the query that I wrote to kind of wrangle it a little bit or test it, if you will, is I wrote this, right? So I'm selecting customer ID, first name, last name, and then here's something that we haven't learned yet, but we have the capability here, and this is technically a function, mind you. But if you're familiar with regular programming, we can ask questions. And one of the things that we do in regular programming is we'll have an if statement, and if statements resolve to true or false, a Boolean, and then we can react to that Boolean to do things. So, what we put in here as parameters, by the way, is the thing that we're checking, and then whether it's true or false. But the general question is, we want to select the customer ID, first and last name of that customer, if the customer is active. We're looking for the value of true or false, right? And we could be looking for other things, right? But in this case, we're looking if active is true or false. And if it comes back as true, it'll register as true. If it comes back as false, then we'll put them on the thing. So we should only get one customer as a result of this query run. So is that what we get? No, what it's really doing, and I notice what it's doing, is it's telling us if they're active or not. And notice it assumes null is false. And I think this is really pretty telling, right? So it's empty, but they're not marked as active. So it's going to assume it's false. And that's kind of an interesting output. So if active, so in other words, if true, this is the condition that we're checking. If it's true, then put true in. If it's, and notice why we're getting a false there. If it's not true, put this word in, whether or not it's indicated in the database. That's the takeaway here. And I guess in the assignment description, I'm going to alter it a little bit. I'm going to indicate that a little bit more clearly. But folks, that's in essence the solution. Let's call it a night. This video ends here.